Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Nithsdale Area Committee, which is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally and using their title, for example, Councillor Smith, so that it is clear who are councillors and who, by the process of elimination, are officers. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you are not addressing the meeting, writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members, and no material should be posted on the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join, and when you rejoin the meeting so that we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. Tracy, can you provide the sederant indicating who is participating remotely and any apologies, please?
Good morning, everyone. We've got 17 members present in total, 9 members present in person here at Council HQ, being the Chair, the Vice Chair, Councillor Bell, Councillor Hislop, Councillor Little, Councillor Slater, Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Stitt, and our Youth Representative Brian McLaughlin in person. And we've got 8 members on Microsoft Teams, being Councillor Baretti, Councillor Blake, Councillor John Campbell, Councillor Dorward, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Jordan, Councillor Lowe, and our Youth Representative Joel Goldsworthy. I've got 2 not present at the start of the meeting, being Councillor Malcolm Johnston and Councillor Wood, and 1 apology from Councillor Keith Walters. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Councillor Bell, did you want to speak?
Yes, Councillor Wood, just to put his apologies in, thank you.
Thank you. I confirm my agreement to the participation of members named as participating remotely. Do members have any statement or connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition, statement of connection for transparency reasons, and members may wish to make a public statement, a declaration of interest? Members would now require to leave the meeting for that item. Councillor Bell, did you have something?
Yes, as asked for previous item 13, the College Mains. My mother has sold the ground to David Wheatley, and we still have land adjacent to the Wheatley's development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Hislop.
Item 10, it's with regard to land at Birkenau A. There's been a resident who has phoned me inquiring whether a piece of land at A would be for sale. I don't know if this is the exact same place or not, but I think it could be. But it's just that someone has been in touch with me about purchasing a piece of land up there.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. If there are no further declarations of interest, we'll now move to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting of 12th of March 2025. Are we happy to approve the minutes? Councillor Bell.
Just to say that obviously I raised the question at Nithsdale Area Committee 2 months ago on the police report. I haven't had an update yet, and that's 2 months now. Just wondering if you maybe, obviously I copied in the Chair and Vice Chair and Fiona, hopefully that I maybe get an answer by Christmas maybe.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. We will follow that up for you. Thank you. Got that, Chair. Thank you. Our first report is the annual performance report from Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing. I would like to welcome to the meeting head teachers Barry Graham from Wallace Hall Academy and Elaine Hetherington Cree from Sanker Academy. And they are joined in the hall by Karen Bryden and Alison Chambers to answer any member questions or address any member comments. And I'm particularly encouraged to read about the head school inspections, and 6 have taken place across Nithsdale during this reporting period, and all reporting strengths in our schools. I will now open up for any member comments or questions. Councillor Bell.
Well, education is not my strong subject, so you maybe going to get off lightly here today. Obviously, looking at these exclusion rates across the region, obviously there's an upward trend there, a red flag status as well. Where are we compared to other local authorities in this? Just take for benchmarking. Just I'm interested, from how other local authorities are dealing and obviously the figures.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Yes, would you like to take that?
Thank you, Councillor Bell. I don't have the figures that compare us to other authorities at hand today, but I can certainly get those to you. But to give you a bit more detail around the exclusion figures that were presented in the report, because it's presented as a rate in the report, but from the period the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025, 40 primary pupils out of 3,845 pupils were excluded in Nithsdale, and in our secondaries, 109 pupils out of 3,355 pupils were excluded. 11 of our primary schools excluded pupils in Nithsdale and 6 secondary schools. The purpose of an exclusion is to create a plan around a child or to review a plan around a child to ensure that they attend school safely and are supported to engage with education.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor Bell? Thank you. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. It's an observation and I don't need an answer today, but on page 19, where we read of the inspections that were conducted, we feature the strengths that the school demonstrated. But what we haven't got are the challenges and areas for improvement that HMI identified. And in one of the schools, my ward, in fact, had 2 elements of the inspection that were described as weak and 2 as satisfactory. And I think that we should be given that information as well as the positive information so that we can understand and learn what's being done to improve that. Having said that, Provost, I'm more than happy to say I've got fantastic schools in my ward, and I'm sure we'll have across the region. I have no issue with the school, and the teaching staff recognise and embrace the findings of the HMI Inspectorate. I just think that we should be made aware of that as well as the strengths, because it gives us a better overall picture of what HMI expect and what we might expect to see. So no criticism, we've got great schools, but we should be told about these things when the reports are presented to us.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Yes, we often hear the negative, but never the positives. Yes, Karen.
I know they didn't really want a response to this, but the way in which we are asked to report, we're only asked to report key achievements, and so therefore it wouldn't be appropriate to put in there the weaknesses or areas for improvement within the school. However, we do share the links with the field reports for all of our schools with elected members, so perhaps it's about how we ensure that you've got all of that information, but as a report that we provide to yourself, it's for key achievements.
Fine, Provost.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. At the last Education Committee, I actually asked if this paper as a whole for the Education Committee, not just for Nithsdale, could be brought as part of a seminar so we could drill down into some of the detail. And it would be good if we could drill down into some of the detail for the exclusion rates, what's causing them and what it is that, is the main reasons why, because they are concerning and they've been concerning for some time now. And I think we need to get a grip of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for that comment and statement. I suppose we have an elected member seminar on the 23rd of May, and since I've just finished off that seminar presentation, I know that we are going to look at the LGBF data. We'll drill live into that data to really sort of look at what does it look like in comparison to our family groups, as well as looking at what does it look like in comparison to Scotland. So you will be able to look at that data. We'll still not have it at a school level, it will be at an authority level, but we'll be able to compare with where we are with other authorities.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm looking at the recommendations. 2.1 says review the end of year summary of performance, and this is outlined in paragraph 4.3 and in the appendix. Now, 4.3 just gives us a general table of success measures in there, but if you go to the appendix from page 23 onwards, most of the data is not there. So I don't see how we can actually consider any of this, because 2.3 does say consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. But how can we achieve that or do that if we haven't got that information in front of us? And what information we do have between the 2 years, 23-24 and 24-25, is really only the attendance rates and the exclusion rates. And looking at the exclusion rates, going back to that table 1 on page 18, it says target not met 1, and yet in the key performance indicators, there's actually 3 in the red. So the information is really, it's a bit confusing, shall we say, if we're not getting the right information or the lack of information. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Can you clarify that at all, Karen? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. It's the difficulty, the juxtaposition around reporting. So we are asked to report as timely as possible. So this is an end of council year service plan report for Nithsdale area based on the data acquired between the 1st of April 24 and the 31st of March 2025. But the attainment data, which you would want to see for 24-25, our young people are currently sitting those exams as we speak, and our primary school data is being collected at the beginning of June. So that data isn't available until later in the calendar year. So it's the balancing act of when we report end of year council information and when we have academic performance. So we take that on board, and it has been raised at other committees as well. So it really is getting the balance as to what's being reported and when.
Can I come back in, Chair?
Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thanks very much for that. And it's probably worthwhile that this committee asks for a further report to be brought to this committee with that information and the key performance indicators, because that's really what we're being asked to consider and to be referred to the relevant service committees. If we haven't got that information before us today, we really need it at a future committee. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Karen, did you want to come back in?
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So the 6-month assessment, which will come back in 6 months' time, will have some of that data in there for you.
Thank you. Councillor Beretti.
Good morning, Chair. Page 19, 446. I know Councillor Dempster has also referred to Ward 7, and I fully agree with that. Now, one of the things that I noticed in 446 was, and it says staff, children, parents have worked together to create a new learning and respond well to positive being recognised through awards shared in assemblies and classes. A question: when these awards are being done, do members or parents get invited along to see the awards being done, or is there no one present, and has any thought been given, if there isn't parents present, to any having digital representation taken and then sent to parents?
Thank you, Councillor Beretti. I have no answer. Maybe Karen can answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beretti. How awards are presented and shared and celebrated varies from one school to another across the authority and actually right across the country. Very often schools share via their social media channels, through their websites, their newsletters, and there are occasions where parents and carers are invited into schools. But perhaps this is an opportunity to bring in Mrs Hetherington-Cree or Mr Graham to discuss how awards are shared within their school communities.
Thanks for that, Karen. I suppose our school's approach is that we have assemblies each term, and that's for pupils, and it's about looking at wider achievement, and we try to recognise that in a wide variety of ways. Parents can let the school know about achievements, but also pupils are asked through QR codes and things like that. But we also, each year we have like a senior and a junior celebration of success evening where parents are invited into that one.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor Beretti?
Yeah, I think it does. Clearly, if we as elected members are not there at every single presentation, it's difficult to know exactly how these awards are being given out, and it clearly does support the view that the staff and children benefit from it, and I would also think that it's positive for the parents. But no, that's great. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you. Elaine from Sanker Academy would like to say something.
I think just to share that our school also does a very similar process to Barry's. So we have celebrating successes at different points in different assemblies throughout the year. We run a colours system where the children get colour certificates. Again, people can nominate from outside the school or inside the school. Parents can nominate as well. And then obviously we also do our awards ceremonies at the end of the years for both BGE and senior phase. So a lot of schools run a similar system, certainly in the secondary sector.
Thank you, that's really helpful. Thank you. Councillor Slater. Councillor Hislop.
A couple of points. I suppose one is for governance. If we can't get the information now, should we look at bringing this paper in September yearly? Because the exams are usually reported to kids in August, so we could get the information quickly after that. Well, I know my children always got their exam results in August, so it should be available because all the schools get them. So if it's a case of they're not wanting to give us that information for some reason, I don't know why, members should be entitled to get that information as soon as possible. And the other thing is, possibly could answer this one, if you look at the long-term trends on a lot of these, they're getting worse. The only one or two that's going up, school attendance rate has went up slightly, percentage of pupils gaining 5+ awards at level 5 is going up, etc. But the rest are all coming down. Why is that?
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Karen, or is yes, Sam.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. So, in answer to your question, all exams, all SQA exams are accredited and certified by August. There is then a process they go through to ensure that it's the right data, so therefore it's not published until September. It is then transferred onto LGBF, the framework, in December the 12th. So therefore it has only went through all of those processes by the 12th of December usually. After that, it's then taken to full committee in terms of full reporting, and it's our understanding that only after it's been to full committee, it can then come to area committees. As you know, we are officers and we will be guided by elected members in terms of the timing of that.
Councillor Hislop, did you want to come back?
So what we're being told is we have to wait roughly 5 months on information that could be telling us that we've got a problem whereby kids are not achieving what they should be before we can do anything. So the next cohort going through have 5 months of education that might not be working.
So to try and give you some reassurance around that, we do have the data and we work with all of our schools across the authority, both primary and secondary. So as well as the SQA exams, we have achievement of a level exams, ACL data. So ACL data, we're starting to pull that now in June. So we're already looking at what is the raw data and working with our head teachers to ensure that is there anything that can be done there and then to change that data or to improve what's going on in their schools. As well as that, every secondary school has a meeting. Every head teacher of a secondary school has a meeting with the head of service, Jim Brown, and myself in August or just after August, after the results have come out, to ensure that we're looking at where are the areas of strength and where are the areas of improvement. So although that the data has not perhaps come to yourself until later on, we are not waiting until that point to act on that information to then have those conversations with our schools.
Does that help, Councillor Hislop?
Well, it would appear that nobody wants to tell us what the data is, but they've got it, but they can't tell us. So it must be a kind of secretive society, I think.
No, I think, does anyone like to come back on that at all? No. Right, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. So we have no further questions. We don't appear to have any further questions. I would like to thank Elaine Hetherington-Cree and Barry Graham for their attendance here today, and Karen and Alison. Thank you. We'll now move to recommendations. We're being asked to review 1, consider 2, and consider 3. Have we reviewed and considered? Thank you. Our second report today asks that we consider how to utilise our tackling poverty and inequalities budget. This report requests members to agree the grant application process priorities, eligibility and criteria for the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget for 25-26 for Nithsdale. Recognising the continued need to tackle poverty and inequalities in our communities, our council agreed an allocation of £180,000 to be used by local area committees to provide support to organisations who are working to mitigate and tackle this at a local level, with some of our most vulnerable residents. Members are being asked to consider the key priorities, eligibility and criteria, and to establish a fund which will provide support across Nithsdale, focusing the fund on key priority areas based on discussions from the recent member seminar. Members will also be aware that at the Tackling Poverty, Inequalities and Housing Subcommittee on the 1st of May, members agreed to apply up-to-date data to the formula allocations for this fund. This has resulted in a reduction in the funding available here in Nithsdale, as outlined within the report. We have Derek Hextall is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. We'll now go to member comments. Do we have any member comments or questions? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. The only question, and it's just for a memory jog of mine, to be fair, just in the appendix at number 11, we did last time round receive emails regarding a food bank that actually failed to meet the criteria. I was just wondering if we tidied that up, because my understanding was there had been a misunderstanding between what we meant by poverty and what was actually being implied by the officers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Derek, can you clear that up for us at all? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stevenson. There's been no specific changes to the guidance, albeit that I think my understanding was it was around the level of match funding that particular applicant scored lower on, but it's certainly something we can pick up with the applicant organisation prior to submission of an application to this round to ensure that it stands its best chance should they wish to submit an application.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments or questions? As there don't appear to be any further questions or comments, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to note 1 and agree 2. Do we have noting and agreement? Sorry? Yes, I've missed out. Yes, you're quite right, I've missed 3. And recommendation 3 is to agree. Thank you. We'll now move to item 6. We move on now to consider how we utilise our discretionary budget. This report requests members consider the key civic and communities initiatives to be supported from the Area Committee discretionary budget. The total budget available is £137,228, and officers have presented a recommendation in Appendix 2 based on the recent member seminar discussions as outlined in the report. Derek Hextall is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Do we have any member comments or questions? Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. It's on page 39, the fourth box, the Remembrance Hospitality. Now, we already have a region-wide budget for the armed forces, and they actually made additional funds available this year to groups because of the 80th year of D-Day and VJ Day. So is this an extra? I notice it's a bit of a reduction, but I'm just checking that we're not duplicating. Maybe the Armed Forces Remembrance Parade should just all be from one budget, because in our other area committee that I sit on, we don't have it as a separate item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Derek?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Lowe. Yes, this is not duplication. The Armed Forces budget doesn't fund hospitality after remembrance events, so that's why in Nithsdale members recognise the importance of those events and offer that grant available. The reason it is reduced is because that's based on what has been requested in the past 3 years, I think it's been. So that funding would cover the requests that we've had in the last 3 years. But we do work closely with the civic team, and we ensure that this doesn't duplicate any of the funding that they award.
Thank you. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks very much, Chair. Page 40, the 2 new funds, community planting and defib. Has word got to be sent out to community councils to apply for this? Because at Caribbean Community Council on Monday night, they caught me unawares because they said there's funding coming about that could help with defibs, maintenance. And also in page of 439, Nithsdale sports grants. I see it's been reduced by 2,000 to 8,000 to 6,000. I find this kind of concern because the size of Nithsdale for sport and achievements, I've seen an awful drop in funding. I just don't know if there's any quick answer to it because I don't know much about the sports in Nithsdale, but it seems an awful big drop from 8,000 to 6,000.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. Derek, do you have an answer for Councillor Stitt?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stitt. Yes, absolutely. We'll be sharing this information with community councils, and it's great to hear the word getting out already, just through the reports being published. So we'll absolutely be sharing that information across community councils, and we'll work with elected members to ensure that is shared widely. In terms of the sports grants, you'll see in the report there was carry forward from last year. I'm just trying to find the paragraph 4.3. There was a remaining balance of £3,150 brought forward. £2,150 of that was from sports grants due to the number of applications. So we did actually increase this budget a few years ago from around £5,500 up to £8,000, given the increase in sporting activity across the ward. However, it's recommended by officers that we maybe reduce that slightly to allow you to allocate that to other areas. But certainly the allocations are for members to determine, and if members feel that we should keep that at the £8,000, that's within your gift to do, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Stitt, would you like to come back?
I would, personally, I'd like to keep the grant for sports at 8,000. Surely the size of Nithsdale, there must be plenty of athletes or people who take up sports, we'd be quite willing to accept funding. I don't know if we'll get support or anything. So.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Derek, has there been a further call for grants to come in? Because of the reduction, is that why it was reduced?
Yes, we promoted, there was 2 rounds last year, Chair, so we promoted both rounds, and we did receive a number of applications, and the majority of them were successful. So yeah, it's for members to determine if they're wanting to keep that to £8,000. We can reduce another budget line by £2,000 to keep that £8,000, and maybe even look towards the criteria. If you want to increase the amount of funding that's available potentially, that may attract additional applications. But yeah, we haven't made a call this year, Chair, to get an understanding, just until clearly members make a determination of whether the fund will open or not.
Thank you, Dick. Councillor Hislop, did you want to come in on that subject?
Chair, I think if you are looking to maintain that budget line, I think you should need to look at what we're offering the people. It's been 500 and was it 200 or whatever it is for a long time. Inflation has been high for a couple of years, and yes, it's down now, but maybe an increase to maybe 600 and 250 or something as part of the criteria might be advisable. Events are getting more expensive to travel to, etc., and training is more expensive, so maybe that would encourage people to apply.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Do we have any further comments on this? Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to echo Councillor Hislop's comments, it's only a maximum of 2 applications per club, or then £500, which actually wouldn't even cover 3 people. Now, I imagine in Nithsdale, some of the clubs will have more participants than, say, maybe in the Stuart, just naturally down to population size. So I do think we either need to look at how many individuals we allow or how much we actually give to each club, because, yeah, I just don't think that would go very far at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Do we have any further comments on that? Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's on page 40, defibrillator.
Can we just stick with the... Yeah, sorry, on you go, sorry.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. It's on page 40, a defibrillator maintenance fund. Now, maybe I'm slightly off track here, but...
Yes, can we just keep with the funding for the sports at the moment, and then we'll... Yeah. Yes, Councillor Dempster.
On that, Provost, we've had information from our officer, Derek, that it has been unused last year, and I would suggest that we go with the officer's recommendation and get a report back next year on the success, because we will finish up simply reducing budgets to other areas where there is a perceived demand. And I think we've had the Nithsdale Sports Council for years, the grants, and they've always been relatively limited in the number of applicants that come forward looking for grants. So I'd be keen to ensure that we have an opportunity to assess not only the Nithsdale grant applications this year, but the benefit of the new initiatives, the 2 that members have discussed at the seminar. So I'd be willing to make a proposal at some stage that we leave it as is for this year, but certainly bring back a report on Nithsdale sports grants for next year if members were prepared to proceed along that line, Chair. Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Do we have any further comments on that? Do we have a proposal?
I'll propose it we due to 8,000, Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
There's at least 3 hands, mine amongst others, wanting to speak online participants. Can we hear them first before we move on to any recommendations or proposals?
Of course, Councillor Ferguson. Would you like to come in?
It was actually Councillor Lowe was before me, but I'll come in after her.
Councillor Lowe.
I would like to second Councillor Stitt's that we keep it at 8,000. We actually give £250 to an individual in the stewardship. So even if you had the number of applications in the Nithsdale, but we would increase to 250, that yes, the costs do get covered better. But that would definitely to keep it at 8,000 and not to reduce it. And if we can increase the individual amount to 250, that's going to help people enormously.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. I'm in agreement to move it to 8,000 or to keep it at 8,000. But the thing I'd really like to flag up here is one of the purposes of this fund is for those who are about to be or heading towards national recognition. That's one of the things we strive to support. The timing of only having 2 grant application sessions in a year doesn't take cognizance of the fact that somebody might only get selected for a trial to play for, Scottish football or Scottish rugby or whatever, and require to be going away at a very short notice to squad training sessions, for example, and if I remember correctly, because I used to sit in the old Nithsdale Council Sports Fund Committee, we used to look at it on a month-by-month basis, which actually took into account the needs that are displayed often by young athletes in particular who are on the start of that selection process, being told out with the funding periods. And I know it's too much to do just in the back of a fag paper, but I think we really need to look at if this is a genuine attempt to support young athletes, then it should be open at all times throughout the year and not just have 2 fixed dates, because what we tend to get from that are you could probably set your watch on who's going to apply at each of the certain times, and anybody new in the process doesn't know anything about it. So I think it's too late this year to do something about it, but I think next year what we really need to do is actually take a look at the timing and perhaps even go down to a month or even a 3-month wouldn't it be too bad funding periods rather than having two funding periods in the whole year. I'm not surprised there's no money, because there was money left over, because these outside bodies where the young people take part in, they don't set their timetable according to Nithsdale's area committee's sports fund. They set them with their national criteria, and the young athletes, whatever discipline it is, have to go along with their governing body rather than Nithsdale Council's, Nithsdale area committee's funding processes. So I think we need a real look at that if we're going to be meaningful, either that or go back to where we were before, where we had a separate fund and the officers were able to operate on an advisory basis if something unusual came along. For example, a youngster who, from my ward, for example, for Lochside or something like that, who's been quite recently funded, asked to go and play for Scotland and Finland for the first time. And that's not in the national programme, but it was a development weekend, and they had to fundraise themselves, and I'm sure they would have put money, asked for some support in that. So to cut a long story short, I'm happy to support that, keeping it at 8,000, but I think next year we need to look at the timings of when we actually make these awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a position on whether it's what the amount is. I mean, we have had a seminar to discuss this, and I know Derek's brought this report because of the result of the discussions around that seminar. But what I'd like to ask, it's about the seminar as well, is I know that about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we allowed retrospective applications. It kind of hit some of the points that Councillor Ferguson said there about timescales of competitions and events. We did retrospective applications and payments, And I do remember we talked about it at the seminar. Are we doing that again this year, Derek?
Derek, would you like to come in on that? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Little. Yes, in the guidance and criteria, page 42, number 4, we have hopefully taken that on board. The feedback from the seminar that whilst we wouldn't ordinarily fund anything that had already incurred, we will consider retrospective payments for unavoidable costs that would secure participation activity. And Chair, if I may just go back to Councillor Ferguson's point, also on page 41, we have taken on board the out of sync applications that we may receive, and we have put in a bit of flexibility there. So you'll see, whilst we've got 2 rounds, one in July and one in October, we have suggested that members agree an out of sync allocation that we can use for applications that come in for exactly as Councillor Ferguson said, where maybe deadlines for sporting bodies don't necessarily meet those deadline dates. Clearly, if members are looking to increase the budget for the sports grants back up to £8,000, we would need to look at the recommendations that we've put into that, the guidance and criteria there were suggested there, £3,000 in July, £2,000 in October, and £1,000 available for out of sync. And we would also need to consider which other budget line we're taking £2,000 from to top this up to the £8,000. So hopefully that's helpful, Chair.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you. Are there any further comments before we continue? We don't appear to have any. What we have is Councillor Stitt's proposal that we increase it to 8,000. Do we have a seconder for... Councillor Slater, did you want to come in? You will second.
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Lowe's already seconded Councillor Stitt's proposal.
Right.
But as part of your proposal, Councillor Stitt, are you putting forward a proposal of where the £2,000 should be reduced elsewhere on the list?
Today, I think we'll have to, but I'm not going to be popular, I wouldn't think, but I still think the 8,000, and I don't know if it'll be included in it, what Councillor Hislop suggested, at 250 for individuals, £600 for teams, or will that have to come after a seminar?
Yes, considering we've had the seminar and discussed all these points. Yes, Councillor Hislop.
Chair, committees are for making decisions, seminars are for advising things. So if we wish to make a decision, this committee has the right to make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Councillor Little?
Absolutely, I agree with that. But if we're going to decide to up this by 2,000, I think here we need to decide where that 2,000 is coming from, and not just it'll come from somewhere. I think we need to decide right now where that comes from.
I agree. Councillor Dempster?
I propose we go with the officer's recommendation. Provost.
I would second that.
But Councillor Stitt still has to tell you where the 2,000 is coming from.
On page 40, can we know, it's got under asterisks, carry forward the remaining £10,000 balance as ring fence contribution to Christmas lights. Can we not take it for that?
Derek, would you like to come in on that? Would that be possible?
I'll seek governance advice on this, but yes, that £10,000 is still available, and it's not included within the total budget that we are calculating, because it was a previous committee decision to carry forward the £10,000 each year for the next 3 years. So there does remain £1,000 that would be considered next year, and I would look to Tracy. Is that okay to take from that, Tracy, because it was more than 6 months ago, that decision?
Thanks, Eric. I was just going to ask when that decision was. So if it was more than 6 months ago, yes, I'm happy if members want to put that forward as a proposal.
Councillor Little?
Sorry to keep coming back in. And do we know what the knock-on effect on that would be on the Christmas light infrastructure?
Derek, do we have any sort of forward thinking on that?
So there would be no impact this year, Chair. Clearly, you would only have £8,000 to go towards the increased costs next year. However, bearing in mind we do have 2 new funds that we are presenting this year to deal with a specific emerging issues, that members, we can consider that at a seminar, whether those 2 funds do continue.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for letting me back in. Just on the 2 new grant applications, we don't actually know how well they'll be subscribed to, so in actual fact it would be interesting to see this year, and then next year we can maybe make a different decision if they happen to be undersubscribed. Thank you.
That's a good point, thank you. Yes, Councillor Dempster.
You have our roads team here that might be able to advise, or our senior management team, because it would be madness to remove a fund that's necessary for because we always say we shouldn't be cancelling Christmas. That's what we say, that's Dumfries, Sackercrow and Thornhill, and we're risking doing that. It might be simpler to take £1,000 off each of the 2 new initiatives, but then we're going to get into a bun fight. But I do think we have to review the decision, but we can't, or we should not impact on what's been a long-standing popular event if the funding would be necessary in the future. And I think as well, Provost, I'm sure you'll know without me telling you, there are other elements of this that members might want to discuss. This is only a motion on one particular element of the paper. And I know Councillor Slater wanted to talk about another piece of the report earlier in the discussion. But we've got our team here, Provost, you might want to ask them.
That may be a good thing. Karen, would you be able to help us out there? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and through yourself, I came up to the table, but I was happy with Derek's response. But what I would say is I would be cautious as a committee in reducing the Christmas lights expenditure. There is significant work involved, particularly through the roads operational team, to install lights across Nithsdale. So I would be cautious about reducing that. Offline, we would have to do some work in terms of what that would actually mean and whether that would have an impact on the amount of Christmas light infrastructure that could be installed across Nithsdale. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. That's very helpful. Derek, do you have anything you'd like to say, bring in on that?
Yeah, just to highlight, there is no suggestion here that we would be reducing any allocation to the Christmas lights. It would just mean in future, like next year, we would need to clearly reduce one of the other budgets next year. So you may be pushing this decision down the road a wee bit in terms of that £2,000 if you choose to take it off the £10,000. But at this stage, clearly, our roads colleagues are currently, as members are aware, working on a contract which would be a multi-year contract as well, based on funding, clearly. However, as Councillor Dempster has stated, there has been an ongoing commitment from this committee to the Christmas lights. So it's just, we wouldn't want, the suggestion is not to reduce any of the budget over the next 2 years. We would need to find this £2,000 from somewhere, and in effect what we'd be saying if we take it from that £10,000 is we would then be we would only have £8,000 towards those Christmas light costs next year.
Thank you, Derek. Councillor Ferguson, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I'm a wee bit at a loss here because 2.2 in the recommendations is saying the total budget available is 137,228, which is exactly the amount that are on page 39 in Appendix 2 and then page 40. But if there's an extra 10,000, the money that's set aside here for the Christmas life infrastructure, 58,560, is intact. So my suggestion here is, in actual fact, 2.2 should read that the total budget available is actually 147, as detailed in paragraphs 4.1 to 4.2. Because the carryover money should be included in that budget available to us.
Derek, do you have anything for that?
Yeah, that's correct. I was trying to make it clear in the report based on the previous committee decision of that £10,000. So what I was trying to explain in 2.2 is that for 25-26, there is 137,228. However, Councillor Ferguson is absolutely right. Nithsdale Area Committee does have access to 147,228, but that £10,000 was ring-fenced, if you like, for next year's Christmas lights, but the £10,000 is there.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe? Oh, Councillor Hislop, sorry, Councillor Hislop.
Chair, what do we get for £10,000 for Christmas lights? Because currently we have not agreed next year's budget, so there is no area committee funding. So £10,000 for Christmas lights, because we've got buses to procure this year, which I'm led to believe will be extra cost. We have an IJB black hole coming up that needs to be filled. We've also got budget savings, and there's not a lot of things that we're finding savings for. So there might not be an area committee budget next year. You know, we're guessing. So I think we should worry about next year's budget when we know if we've got money to spend next year, because we might not have Christmas lights, and we might not have any of the things on here next year if there's no funding coming forward. So I think if there's a chance to use the money this year and use it well, I think we should.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. We have no further comments on that. We seem to have a motion on that. Yes, Councillor Dempster.
We have a motion and amendment on that particular element, Provost, but I think you might want to offer members the opportunity in case they want to discuss any of the other aspects of the report, and then we can go to the vote on the Nithsdale.
On Councillor Little.
Sorry, thank you again for letting me in multiple times, Chair. It's on this same one before we move to the other stuff as well. Just for clarity, so we're considering adding £2,000 to a budget that's had lower subscription and taking it off something we actually need, because this is not about Christmas lights, this is about the infrastructure, isn't it? This is the upgrading that's needed. So we're talking about taking it off something, adding it to something that we don't seem to need quite as much at the moment, and take it off something we do. It doesn't make any sense to me, sorry.
Karen, did you want to come in on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through yourself, yeah, my understanding is that is towards the infrastructure. Derek might be able to just confirm, and he's nodding his head, so yes, it is towards the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments on that? Derek, do you want to just any further? No, thank you. So we'll just move on to the rest of the Councillor Slater, you wanted to come in to do the DFIBs.
Oh, it's page 49.
At that time, you were wanting to talk about defibrillators, Councillor Slater.
That's that one, sorry. Page 40. Chair, yes, it's on page 40 as regarding a defibrillator and maintenance fund. It's regarding that there's some telephone boxes in the town which BT are taking away, and I wonder if it's possible, maybe not now, but into the future, these boxes could be turned into defibrillator boxes for the people of the town. There's one in the Sands, and I think there's still two in the High Street. So it's just something, probably maybe not for today, but for the future. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Slater. But yes, that is something that we would look to in the future. Yes, and they have been used in other areas as well. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Do we have any further comments, questions? Don't appear to have any further questions, comments. And we have a motion on the table, so we will move to that. We have a proposer and a seconder. Would you like to take over, Tracy? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we have a motion proposed by Councillor Stitt, seconded by Councillor Lowe, and that is to keep the allocation for Nithsdale Sports Grant at £8,000, which should be topped up with the £2,000 used from the ring fence Christmas lights infrastructure for 2026-27, and an amendment proposed by the Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster, seconded by the Chair, Councillor Johnston, and that's to go with the recommendation in the report with the Nithsdale Sports Grant being £6,000 allocation. Derek, are you happy with that, or was there something else you needed factored into that decision?
Sorry, Tracy, were you coming to me there because I had a glitch?
Oh, sorry, Derek. I wondered if that was all you needed in that, or was there something else you needed factored into that decision?
Yeah, there was a bit of a discussion there about increasing the amount you can apply for groups to £600 and individuals to £250. So I wonder if that is to be included in both the motion and amendment, and also if we were to move to the £8,000 within the guidance and criteria on page 41. We've only clearly accounted for £6,000. So again, we would need to split the £8,000. So maybe £3,000 in July, £3,000 in October, and £2,000 out of sync allocation to bring that up to the 8. But I don't know if that is what the member's thinking in terms of the motion.
I'd like to also add, Tracy, 250 individuals, £600 per team, and what Derek's proposed, 3,000, 3,000, 2,000 for this forthcoming year. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Stitt. Councillor Lowe, are you happy to support that?
I was just about to say I did propose a 250 at least, so yes, happy to second Councillor Stitt with that change.
Thank you. And the amendment, Chair and Vice Chair, are you happy to increase to 250 and 600, or leave it as per the report?
I did say as per the officer's report, but if that helps, I'm happy to go with that amendment if that's more appropriate given the current economic climate. So I'm happy to go with the increase if you are, probably.
Okay.
Go with the increase.
Thank you. So, motion proposed by Councillor Stitt, seconded by Councillor Lowe, is to increase the allocation back to £8,000, topping up the £2,000 from the Ringfest Christmas lights for 26-27, and that's also to up the payments for 250 for individuals and 600 for groups, and that will result in the criteria increasing from July to 3,000, 3,000 for October, and the remaining 2,000 for out of sync. And the amendment by the Vice Chair, seconded by the Chair, is as per the report, remaining at £6,000, but also with the change to the 250 for individuals, 600 for groups, and the increase to the July, October to 3,000 each, and the 2,000 for out of sync. Chair?
Amendment.
Vice Chair?
Amendment.
Councillor Bell?
Amendment.
Councillor Barretti?
Amendment.
Councillor Blake?
Motion.
Councillor John Campbell?
Motion.
Councillor Ferguson?
Motion, please.
Councillor Hislop?
Motion.
Councillor Johnston? Malcolm Johnson?
Amendment.
Councillor Jordan?
Motion, please.
Councillor Little?
Amendment.
Councillor Lowe?
Motion.
Councillor Slater?
Motion.
Councillor Stevenson?
Motion.
Councillor Stitt?
Motion.
And Councillor Walters and Wood are not present. So the motion is carried 9 votes to 6, so it will be topped up to £8,000. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. We'll now move to item 7. We will now consider the draft delivery plan of the regional parking strategy for Nithsdale. Now, this is a very detailed report, and I thank the report authors for the level of detail included. James Rowd from Sistra and Ailsa Hammond are on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. We'll move to member comments. Do we have any comments? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. It's not for Sistra, it's for council officers. On page 47, at 4.9, I just want to know, is this being addressed as a matter of urgency? Because this problem's getting worse, it's not going away. Do we have a rough timeline of when this is actually going to play out? And also at 4.10, we discussed the parking zones A to F. I was just wondering when they were last reviewed, because parking zone F is actually covers some of Church Street in my ward, but the problem is the whole of Church Street is an issue. And I've had quite a bit of feedback from council officers that they're not looking to do anything with the top end of Church Street, but there is a serious issue in there for parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Karen, would you like to take that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through yourself, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson, for your questions. So just in relation to the DPE itself mentioned in 4.99, that application is going through the process with Transport Scotland. Members may remember I updated earlier this year, just in terms of, beginning of February it was, just in terms of the process that requires to be taken in relation to that. So the current application, we're working with legal services, as it's stated within 4.9, to update following comment from Transport Scotland. That will take us to step 10. There's 10 steps in this process. The outline timescales associated with that are up to 12 months. So at this moment in time, I can't be any more detailed than that, but what I can confirm to members is we will keep all members across the region up to date in terms of the DPE application process with Transport Scotland. In terms of your second point, I will hand over to Ailsa to respond to that one. Thank you.
Good morning. Regarding the waiting restrictions on the residential areas, ATF, we are currently reviewing the traffic regulation orders at the moment, because obviously they need to be reviewed before the DPE can go into place as well, to make sure they're enforceable and that everything is in place regarding the lines and signs will be updated. So currently we are reviewing those for Dumfries in the main areas of the ATF. Thank you.
Councillor Stevenson, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on that, can we then feed back into that for the parking areas A to F, just for feedback from constituents? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. I think mine is just a simple question, a geography question. On page 59, it mentions the purchase of a private car park located immediately to the north of White Sands. Whereabouts is that? Is that the one behind the new bazaar? And whatever car park it is, have we already approached them? Is there already something going to do that, sorry?
Yes, Can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and through yourself, Provost. Thank you, Councillor Little. I will ask the flood team to contact you directly just in terms of the specific locations. But my understanding is, yes, it's where you're suggesting, and I can confirm that approach and discussions are ongoing in terms of that purchase. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 47 and the mention of the sections there on TROs. I'm just wondering if there are urgent orders that have been made, for example, poor access for bin lorries or emergency vehicles. Are we just going to wait until DPE comes in, or is the delay on those maybe the lining teams? Because certainly in our area in the Stewartry, we're having that problem, is that they're just going to wait, and yet we need to deal with some of these difficult, particularly corners of junctions. So are they getting held up because of the DPE decision?
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Ailsa, would you like to?
Thank you. No, the points are regarding about the access for the bin lorries and some waiting restrictions to help with that are actually ongoing at the moment, and some of those are actually in process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's on page 59. It's regarding the removal of 120 parking spaces on the riverside, the White Sands. Another point is, it says that the Green Sands will be extended as a car park and more tree planting will be done. Now, this area's got very mature trees at the moment. It's a very, very quiet a place for people to sit, walk and cycle on a riverfront. We are desperately in need of green spaces, as Scottish Water has just said in the Times, that council should do more of that. But my concern is the fact that this area has to be lost for 120 cars. And regarding the car park, yes, as the question was asked earlier, if this car park is not purchased, what's the situation on that as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Karen, can you take that?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slater. So your questions are directly associated with the White Sands development and the wider Renew project. Now, whilst it is noted within this draft parking strategy for Nithsdale, there's further work ongoing in terms of that specific project, which we plan to update members on later this year. And in terms of the Green Sands specifically, if I may, Chair, there will be some engagement sessions late June for members of the community and organisations which members will be invited to. So that will provide you with further detail at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Slater.
I just want to come back there as regarding the Green Sands. I believe, according to SEPA, that is a floodplain. It's interesting that you would put a car park on a floodplain. The other point is the streets that lead to that place, like George Street and Urban Street, are packed with traffic already. It's a one-way street back up from that car park onto George Street again, so George Street's basically a one-way system. So a tremendous amount of people are really quite concerned about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. As Karen said, there is going to be a meeting in June that you will have your chance to air your comments then. Right, thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Officer. There's quite a bit of work involved in this parking strategy across Dumfries. Obviously, what concerns me is the HGVs. A lot of them are parked in northwest Dumfries, and we're really looking at a strategy to some sort of lorry park. You know, if a lot of wagons are coming off the A75. I'm just wondering, you know, I know the parking where the ambulance station is in northwest Dumfries. There's a number of wagons parked there at night times. I can understand they're coming off the road, but we need to be looking at a parking strategy for HGVs across the region as well. Some sort of safer lorry park, they can park their vehicles and move on in the morning. So that needs to be incorporated as well in this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Ailsa, do you have any answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. No, that is one of the plans that they are looking at within the strategy, where we can actually look at different places as well as renewing the signage for places like Brooms Road and things like that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Prof. Just a couple of thoughts. On the A76, Amy manages the infrastructure and the road markings, and I presume that we'll be dealing with Amy. And in the rural hinterland as well, in some locations, there are parking restrictions, and I would presume that this report will ensure that, or the outcome of the report will ensure that that's taken into account as well, because we can't have disc parkings and some restrictions in areas and no in others, so I would hope that be rolled out across the region. I'm pleased to see in the sister report they make reference to making bigger parking bays now, because I raised that earlier. But the one thing I wanted to raise with you, and it's probably for officers rather than the report itself, I'm sure every member will experience this as well. I've had constituents come to me quite regularly where disabled parking bays have been placed at a specific property or location on request. The folk then, for whatever reason, move on the new folk occupy the house, but they can't park their car outside the door because of the disabled parking bay there that's no longer in use. So when we're doing this strategy, and I know Sister did talk about assessing the provision, but they don't make reference to removal of parking bays where there's no longer a need, because there's also a need to ensure that people can get access to their properties and their dwellings, and we shouldn't be impacting negatively on them because of a provision made in the best intentions at a previous juncture. That's an observation I have to make, Provost. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Do we have any further comments or questions? Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just to come back in, just on the subject of the decriminalised parking enforcement, and we're hearing that it's going to take about 12 months to be brought in. I was wondering if we could have a report brought back to Nithsdale Area Committee, just with the work being carried out at present with partner agencies to ensure dangerous parking in Dumfries Town Centre, mainly in the town centre, is being discouraged because it is an accident waiting to happen, especially in the town. And in actual fact, the state of the town centre, I think, actually should have its own paper brought back to Nithsdale Area Committee. I do know another councillor's asked for one, was told there was one going to be arriving, and it's never here. So I'm proposing that we bring back a report to Nithsdale Area Committee, highlighting the work being carried out at present with partner agencies to ensure dangerous parking in Dumfries Town is discouraged, and this paper should be part of this report should be part of a wider paper reviewing the state of the town centre, including street cleaning and sanitation, pavement repairs and flagstone replacements, because these are just being replaced by tarmac now, and bus shelter cleaning, and what we're doing to ensure that our town actually looks something that the residents can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. I do agree there has been an increase in cars coming up through the centre. Ailsa or Karen, do you have any comments to make on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Certainly happy to consider a dedicated report coming back to Nithsdale Area Committee, specifically in relation to Dumfries Town Centre, in and around the elements that you've mentioned. So that's obviously cross-service, but the majority within E&I Directorate. So happy to speak to colleagues and look at that. That will also dovetail with any reports that are going to Service Committee, so E&I Committee as well. Thank you.
Same point, Provost.
Councillor Dempster.
I hope it's every town centre and not just Dumfries, because we are looking after Nithsdale. And we ought to take pride in our own local communities, so it won't be a one. Thank you. Not being parochial at all.
Thank you. Councillor Blake.
Thank you. Councillor Dempster partially stole my thunder there. I was just going to remind members that although we're talking a lot about Dumfries, that this is in fact region-wide, and that with all town centres, obviously this is Nithsdale Area Committee, so I agree that all Nithsdale towns should be included. It's also to remind members that this parking problem, it's not a new problem. It's really has been happening since around 2014, when Police Scotland really withdrew their intention to enforce parking. In the last 2 years, there have now been a significant step forward that we have gone down the DPE route. It's a very complicated route, and it's a time-consuming route, but we are committed to getting that through, and also to reviewing every parking situation. Some of the time limited parking where it may have been appropriate, and historically it may not be important now, that we need to review every single one. There's a lot of work, and the team are working hard on it, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Stevens, did you want to come in again?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy for every town report to come back, but I would like to see them individually, purely because each town will have its unique difficulties that we need to address. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Through yourself, just to confirm, happy to consider that. I have to be aware of officers' capacity in order to bring that level of detail back. So, as I say, happy to consider that and dovetail it as appropriate with Service Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions? We will now move to recommendations. Members are being asked to note 1, agree to, and note 3. Have we noted and agreed? Thank you. Our next report, item 8, first asks that we remove delegation from the Economy, Infrastructure Committee and Dumfries Common Goods Subcommittee to consider an update on the long-term lease of Lorburn Hall. Yes, Councillor Hislop.
Point of order. Can an area committee remove delegation from a service committee? My understanding, the only place that you could remove delegation was from full council, because they're the body who actually delegate things, so they have the right to remove delegation. We delegate to Common Good Fund, so we could remove that one, but I don't know if we can remove the other one. Could just have clarification on that, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I did see this report when it came through governance, and as it was just a noting report, but I thought for full transparency that because the reports go to E&I, we would include that, but it is just a noting report, so members are not asked to agree anything other than just to discuss it at the meeting today. But take your point, Councillor Hislop.
Thank you. So are members happy to remove delegation? Happy to remove? Thank you. It is good to have this update report on the long-term lease of Lorburn Hall. I know myself and others are pleased to see this presented here today. Karen Brownlee is in the hall and Colin Freeman is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Members' comments, Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I'm delighted to see this report come forward. I'd like to start off by apologising to Karen, because I know that you've not been involved in this the whole way along, and I am very cross. So it's not directed at you, because I know you've not been involved. But since you have been involved, things have been picking up, so I'd like to thank you for that. This report lacks the human element, and it says here, where is it? That DHI's occupation of Lorburn Hall commenced on March the 24th, although of 2024. But yet, on 20th of June 2023 is when the agreement at FPT, and I know it was a few weeks later because we had another organisation in there, so they had to go, but it wasn't almost a year later. So we have a lot of feet dragging. We had the relocation of the guides, that took forever. The repairs are not being done. And 4.9 on page 77, it says no lease or licence to occupy is has been in place, and they've been unable to secure funding. But there's been massive losses out with even being able to secure funding, because they've not been able to have rent where the guides were. They've not been able to secure this funding, so they can't progress with other projects. The time scale has been outrageous. And I can't even imagine what the DHI's... I'd like to have seen their view, because this has all been factual and it seems like it's all ticked along quite neatly, but it hasn't. This has taken an absolute lifetime to put something into place that should have been in place a long time ago. So this is not, as I said, Karen, I'm sorry, because I know you've not been all the way along. And I was just wondering what, I don't know, I don't even know what I'm wondering here, because this is the report. DHI, the Dumfries Hall Initiative, have not had a say in this. I'm sure their opinion of this paper would be completely different than what's here. And it just concerns me that we have an organisation that's got the ability and has achieved some great things for our region and for Dumfries and for the community and all different events and stuff, and it's just been blocked constantly with this lack of movement, with this feet dragging. And here is a question, why are the repairs still not done? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Karen?
Thank you, Provost. Through yourself, thanks very much, Councillor Little, for your comments. I think, first of all, I'll apologise to members. I completely understand frustrations, you know, in terms of the length of time it has taken to progress the lease as previously agreed with the DHI. Just to give members assurance, the DHI are fully aware of what's in this report, and it's exactly the discussions that I've had with them over the last few months, and they're happy with, as I say, you know, the content of the report. Couple of updates just in terms of I can confirm that the lease is on schedule to be completed next week, so both council solicitors and DHI solicitors are currently progressing that. The schedule of condition has now been completed, and officers through Colin received that report this morning, actually, within property estates and programmes. I absolutely, you know, appreciate that there have been challenges, you know, along the way. Officers have been working with the DHI. The guides moved out of the hall towards the end of last year, and it was anticipated at that time we would move towards the lease. However, the discussions stopped at that point, and I'll completely hold up my hands and say I hadn't appreciated when I came into this role that I should be in direct contact. So I am in direct contact, speaking to DHI regularly, and as I say, you know, we've agreed as laid out in the report that will progress in that manner. I have spoken to them about the funding, particularly third sector funding that they have potentially missed over the last year, and I was given confidence by the DHI committee themselves, who have confirmed that, you know, once this lease is agreed, they'll be able to pick those discussions back up, and are relatively confident that they will be able to agree that funding going forward. In terms of repairs and maintenance, those are ongoing now, and I am regularly speaking with colleagues in property, estates and programmes. There have been some repairs and maintenance completed over the last year. However, we're revisiting some of those, and for instance, spoke to the committee this morning. There's an ongoing issue with the fire alarm. So again, we're in that constant discussion with them to try and help them resolve and move forward as described in the report. But just to say, completely understand members' frustrations, so thank you.
Yes, Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. No, thanks for that, Karen. I am absolutely cock-a-hoop at the thought of this lease actually being in place and things going on. Thank you for picking it up and actually running with this, because that's what's needed. But I'll be honest, I am really embarrassed on behalf of the council at the way that they've treated this organisation, but delighted that it's really actually getting done now. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe. Councillor.
Sorry, you didn't have my hand up.
Councillor Lowe, you didn't. Councillor Slater. I've got Slater. You have. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, like Councillor Little said, this is a bit of a sorry tale. At the Finance Procurement Committee in June 23, it was agreed to offer a 25-year lease. Part of the terms were rent-free for 2 years. Now, my counting, 2 years is up in June. Support for energy costs capped at £15,000 per annum for the first 3 years. So that means they've got another year at £15,000 cap support. Or does this start when we've actually signed the lease, which is the end of this month? And if that's the case, I don't know if it should be here or at the Common Good Fund, but where has the money for the rent for that period, if it wasn't in the lease? Has it been put into the Common Good Fund because it's a Common Goods property and they had agreed these terms? And if not, because I've got my sort of common good hat on, we should always make sure we get the money for the common good. What's happened with that money? or is the 2 years up of the free rent in June 25?
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Karen, would you want to take that, or Colin? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hislop, for your question. So just to confirm, there has been no rent received to date because the lease hasn't been signed. It would be our intention that as soon as the lease is signed, that is when those terms, as mentioned in 3.1, will come into effect.
So that'll be 4 years, possibly free rent, because we've had no income in the Common Good Fund for 4 years over that period for that hall.
Thank you, Chair. What I can say is the lease would not have commenced prior to the guides moving venue, which, as members know, was towards the end of last year. As far as I'm aware, there was no intention that there would have been any income received at that point. But I do appreciate that, the decision was made at FPT in June 2023. However, it has taken that time to progress, I guess, the internal movements in order to ensure that the DHI are the only occupants within that building. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Hislop.
Do we know if the Common Good agreed to the 2 years occupation or licence to occupy that building that is their property, or were they under the thought that we were going to have a lease where there would be a 2 year period without income coming to the Common Good?
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Yes, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. I am not aware, and I don't have the detail in front of me, just in terms of the report that was presented to the Common Good Committee at that time. I'll bring Colin in, but I'm not sure if Colin will be aware of that detail either. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chair. Not aware of the specific detail, but what I can say to members is that the Common Good Fund Subcommittee were presented with reports on a regular basis throughout the process, but level of specific detail I'm not aware of, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Little.
Thank you for letting me back in, Chair. If I remember correctly, part of the bid that the DHI had put in, that was part of their bid when they won, and that was presented to the Common Good. I think the main issue is we weren't expecting 4 years of that, because if it's taken 2 years to get to the stage where it all starts, then that's where we have the issues.
Thank you. Colin, do you have any comment on that?
Thank you, Chair. No further comment to make on that.
Thank you. If we have no further questions or comments, we don't appear to have any, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to agree 1, which we have done, note 2, note 3, and note 4. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Colin. Our next report, item 10, asks if we know any, sorry? Oh, 9. I'm jumping over here. Item 8 is our next report is an update on the plan for the Neighbourhoods Programme. This is another report I'm glad to see come before Nithsdale Area Committee, and one that I would like to see on a regular basis as the Town Board progresses. Nicola Hill is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Do we have any member comments? Councillor Little?
I'm on fire today. My point is, on 3.4 on page 81, is that the long-term plan development by the Town Board includes a 10-year vision and an initial 3-year investment plan. But this report, I've got no idea what that plan is. We've got a timetable, a key dates, but actual no plan. And of course, 20 million is depreciating what you can actually do. Year upon year, we're going to get less from that. But on top of that, what I would like to see, Chair, is the two council representatives, I think it's you and Councillor Slater, to provide a report, because you're part of that. It would be good to bring that to this committee as a report on, you know, when you've been at that you know, been on that board. But yeah, we have no plan. I don't know what the plan is.
Thank you, Councillor Little. There are some problems with the money coming forward because of change of government and putting plans forward that have to go to the Westminster to be approved. But I will hand you over to Nicola, who can fill you in on things. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Little. There is a 10-year plan, as the report suggests, which was developed by the Dumfries Town Board prior to the general election last year. When the new government came in, they chose to review the programme and provide a new set of guidance to the Dumfries Town Board around the delivery of the programme. It's now referred to as the Plan for Neighbourhoods. And in that guidance, they have requested that a fresh plan be developed by the Town Board. Again, a 10-year plan, this time with a 4-year investment plan. So the Dumfries Town Board are currently putting together their community engagement plans in order to develop what they're now calling a regeneration plan. And that plan will be submitted to UK Government by the end of this year. We are currently still awaiting the guidance from Scottish Government around the guidance for Scotland from the UK Government in order for the Town Board to progress with the development of their new plan.
Thank you, Nicola. Yes, Councillor Little?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for that, Nicola. So we're probably not going to get eyes on that plan till next year, which is, and I know it's all bureaucracy and it's, you know, rules and regulations, etc., and then change of governments, etc. I'm aware of all that. It's just more and more concerning that as the years go by, that money equates to an awful lot less for us. But thank you for that update, Nicola.
Thank you. Councillor Slater?
Yes, I would just concur with what the lady said there. The fact is, the Town Board did have a plan, but they obviously changed their government. And yes, they want to change. They're changing the situation, how we spend money and things like that. That's all. And as Tracy says, it's probably talking about 2026. I believe there's a meeting this week with the chair of the board regarding some ministerial people having a walk around the town. I think that's either tomorrow or Friday. I think it might be tomorrow. So they're going to have a look around the town. But the problem is, and also the Town Board was the first one in Scotland to have their plan put into the government. They were first to do that, but unfortunately we don't have the money yet. So there's not a lot we can really do at this stage. Thank you.
No, thank you. But we will continue to bring reports to the NAC committee. Yes. Do we have any further comments or questions? Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I can't remember if I saw it in here or not. Do we know what the boundary of the town is? Or the town centre or the area this is to cover? Or is that going to be changed? Because, you know, I remember going to Heath Hall Community Council and they were saying, well, we feel part of Dumfries as well. And they were wanting some of this 20 million. I think Locher Briggs, Lochside, various other areas out with the town centre would look at it. But to be honest, £20 million, if you take the High Street as one and you want to develop that, you wouldn't even possibly scratch the surface of the High Street with £20 million when you see the cost of some of the flats and renovations that you have to do for old buildings. So do we know what the area to be covered is?
It's my understanding it's within the borough of Dumfries itself. Nicola, would you like to expand on that at all? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hislop. Yeah, the boundary was determined by the Town Board when they developed the previous plan. It doesn't currently include Locherbriggs and Heath Hall, and we have had to recently resubmit to the government confirming the boundary, and the Town Board have chosen not to change the boundary, but that boundary will be published as part of the new regeneration plan when it comes out.
Councillor Hislop, did you want to come back in?
It was mentioned it was the borough. Now, my understanding, the borough finished in 1975, so is that the case that most of Georgetown and Colside are not included in the area as well, because they were not part of the former borough, they were part of the regional council rather than the borough council. So could we have confirmation on that part, please?
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Nicola, do we have any confirmation on that?
Yeah, to my knowledge, Georgetown and Colside are not included either in the current boundary.
Councillor Slater? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the boundary, as my colleague said here, it was initially the town boundary, but as she said as well, if she expand it and continue to expand that area, everybody would probably get £1 each. You know, so the money would just, as my colleague said, it would disappear very quickly. So there has to be a defined area, but I can also see problems with that, because if someone stays just across the road and they're not in that boundary, so I can foresee slight questions about that in the future. Thank you.
No, thank you. Councillor Little?
I'm going to further complicate matters. Through the city status bid, we changed the boundary then for that. So are you going by that new boundary, or the boundary how many levels below? Because it seemed we seem to change it quite a lot. So it would be an advantage to see the area that the Town Board have decided on, because we had changed it again to allow other things in.
Yeah, there has been a lot of discussion on just exactly where the boundary is going to be. Nicola, do you have any further information on that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Little. Yeah, no, I'm not aware that the Town Board referred to the city status boundary that was used previously, but certainly we have a Town Board meeting, as Councillor Slater referred to earlier. The UK Government representatives are meeting with the Dumfries Town Board Chair, myself and members of the Town Board tomorrow. They are coming to Dumfries for a visit, and then there is a Dumfries Town Board meeting tomorrow evening. I'm sure that there would be no reason why the Town Board wouldn't share the boundary with elected members. I can certainly raise that at the Town Board meeting tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Nicola. Do we have any further comments or questions? If not, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to note 1, note 2, and advise 3. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong piece of paper. Sorry. Note 1 and note 2. Sorry. Thank you. We'll now move to the next item, 10. Our next report asks if we know of any community groups we think should be included in the consultation of disposal of land at Birkenau in A. We have Colin Freeman is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Do we have any member comments or questions? There don't appear to be any comments or questions. And this is a piece of land at A that is surplus to requirements. And hopefully it will go on the open market for sale when it does come for sale. Colin, would that be the case? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In this specific case, we've been approached by the local resident adjacent to the land, and they wish to enter into an off-market negotiated sale with us. At that point in time, we'll do a comparable valuation and make sure that the council receives best consideration as part of the sale. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments? Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This piece of land, if it's sold and there's someone obviously interested in, are they looking to buy it to probably build on it as such? So if it's classed as building land, does that increase the cost of buying it, what it's worth to purchase it, if it's for building on? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Colin? Do you know any reasons why they're purchasing this piece of land, or for what reason?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slater. Also, they're just looking to extend their garden and their drive. The land is directly adjacent to their existing property, and through the conversations we've had with the resident, they've got no intention to build on that land.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments, questions? No. We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to note 1, note 2 and advise 3. Thank you. Now move to item 11, again disposal of land at Glencapel Road, Kingham Road, Dumfries. Our next report asks us to identify any groups not already consulted in regard to the disposal of the land at Glencapel Road, Kingham Road, Dumfries. And we have Colin Freeman is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was at the recent Kingham Quay Community Council meeting, and they're interested in this piece of land, probably possibly to make it into a garden, because it's a little bit overgrown at the moment, but it goes down between the two roads, from the Glencapel Road to the road that goes to Kingham. And they show an interest in it, and there may be other people who look to try and keep it as a garden rather than just be sold off. It could be another green space within the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Colin, is that a possibility it could be kept as garden? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slater. With the discussions with the resident who's looking to purchase the land, they are going to keep that as open space, open green space. There is one element of the potential sale that we need to confirm. You're correct in saying there's a path through the land. We need to check and confirm whether that is a public right of way or not. If it is a public right of way, then that will be included in the sale.
Yes, Councillor Slater, did you want to come back in?
Yes, regarding the sale of land, could time be given for the Community Council to declare an interest, or someone else, rather than it just be sold off? But what will it be sold off as? A garden, or for another house, or whatever, where it's a little bit of green space that maybe the community could help make it back to where you can actually walk through and enjoy that area. But whoever said someone's going to purchase it, it could be for a house, it could be for anything. So I think the community should have the first chance of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Colin, I'm assuming that communities have already been consulted on this, community councils and other groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slater. Yes, as part of the process, we reach out to community groups, and in this regard, we've reached out to Kingham Quay Community Council, the Crichton Trust, the People's Project, and the Dumfries Partnership Action Group. At the time of writing the report, we had no comments back from them, hence the note on 4.2. However, what we will now do is we'll go back to the potential purchaser and acknowledge that there is community interest, and to see if that changes their mind or their view on the land. But they have made a commitment to keep it as garden land. It's not a developable piece of land. It's steeply inclined, but the purchaser does want to bring the garden back to what it once was.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Slater.
If the purchaser buys this, or say purchases it, that will become private land at that stage. So that takes away the community situation altogether. So I believe more time should be given, because it's very important to us. It's a green space, and if people, the community is interested in doing something, because we really try and inspire the community to do more in the community. So that would be something they could do. So I think that that should be put in bold till, and people given a little bit longer to think about what they could probably do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. I think Colin did say that he was going to take this back to a community group and take it and to rediscuss this issue. Thank you. Do we have any further comments or questions? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I fully support what Councillor Slater was saying there. I also attended the last Kingham Community Council, and quite a number of members of the public who were in attendance had asked the Community Council to look into this, even though they were previously approached, as Colin said, which is mentioned in the report in 4.2. But I also feel that if the community themselves, because we are asked the recommendations at 2.3, they advise if there are any other community groups and members wishing. But although Colin's already approached the Community Council, I think members of the public who attended the last one were unaware of this approach before, but they do want to show an interest or a potential community interest, and I'd be happy if Colin does take that approach.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Yes, that will be done. Colin will take this forward. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just a couple of questions here. Just so I get exactly which ground we're talking about here. Is this the land where the wall was falling down? That's the first question. And there was action on that. I believe there's new householders there. The second question is maybe one that Colin will have to take back. But are community councils actually allowed to own property?
Councillor Campbell, according to my thing, they can't own property or buildings. Thank you. But Colin may want to.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. In regards to your first question, yes, the property directly adjacent to the land in question, there was some remedial works done to a retaining wall. In terms of your second question, Councillor Ferguson, I'm not an expert on community council, so I don't have an answer for you.
Chair, you said something there. It broke up online. Did you say they can't or they can? Is your understanding? But
my understanding is that community councils can't own land or property.
That was my understanding as well, and I just wanted to confirm. If Colin's, to be fair to Colin, he's fairly new in this role, and I think we need to get a steer from legal so that we actually don't raise expectations in a community when they're actually not allowed to do it. We just need to be very careful in that.
No, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Thank you. That will be noted. Councillor Hislop.
I'm just wondering if there's a mistake in the report, because it looks like there's a paragraph missing. Paragraph 3.5 says that we should only advertise 633 areas, as we don't own the rest of it. Now, that was agreed at E&I in November 24, but I don't know what happened. The other piece of land didn't belong to the council, it says. Now, and if you look at the location plan, it would suggest that the 308 square metres that we don't own is the cross-hatched, and the hatched area is the 633 to the north. Is there a further paragraph that should be in 3.5 or 3.6 saying that that was wrong or something, or there was another decision made?
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Colin, can you answer that one?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Apologies for the confusion caused. The 633 square metres is the land directly adjacent to the land currently in focus. And that is the area that is not owned by Dumfries and Galloway Council.
Does that help, Councillor Hislop?
So just explain 3.5 to me then. It says there that on the 5th of November, an area of land was included in a report that was out with the ownership of the council, and the area of land should only extend to 633 square metres or thereby. Now that suggests that we own the 633, but we don't own the other part, or is it just my reading of that sentence that's wrong?
Colin, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Again, apologies for the confusion in the report. The 633 square metres is not included in the hatched or the cross-hatched area. It's the area directly adjacent to those two areas.
So could you explain which area is the 633? Because according to this, the hatched area is the 633 and the cross-hatched is 308 on the page 95. And if it's the place further up next to Castle Bank House, I'm kind of looking at that and I would say that's no 633 metres, that's square metres, because the hatched one is bigger than the other part that's not hatched.
Thank you, Councillor. Colin, do you have any explanations?
Thank you, Chair. The area that is hatched and cross-hatched is 1,130 square metres. The area that is referred to as 633 square metres is not hatched or cross-hatched on the on the appendix, Chair.
Chair, maybe my maths is different, but 633 plus 308 is 941. Now that's the two areas, so the 633 is hatched. It says that in the appendix. So could we have clarity on that, please?
Thank you. There still seems to be a bit of confusion here, Colin.
Yeah, agreed, Chair, and apologies for that. All I can say is that the land in question is the 1,130 square metres, which is detailed in the cross-hatched and the hatched areas on the appendix.
Chair, but the appendix quite clearly states at the top of the page, hatched area extends to 633 square metres or thereby, cross-hatched area extends to 308, which adds up to 941 at the school I went to, not 1,100 and odd. So I would say that the recommendations are wrong because the area that's identified in the appendix is not the area that's meant to be sold.
Yes, Councillor Hislop, it does appear to be a bit confusing on the actual map here.
Chair, if I may, the Council Hislop's arithmetic is correct, the report is incorrect, and the land in question is 941 square metres.
Thank you. Could we have this brought back again, because this is confusing and we can't really make a decision on this as it is.
Chair, if we are bringing it back, can we have clarification as to where 3.5 refers to the area of land that isn't included within the appendix? Because that's where I'm getting confused, because the numbers are 633, which would suggest the 308 shouldn't be in there as the area that wasn't ours. But I think there is another area of land which isn't indicated that we could really do with to show what that refers to the 3.5 in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Colin, can we have some more clarification on this?
Chair, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Hislop. Happy to bring back a further report that details any inaccuracies in this report and highlights what the specifics actually are in regards to the land in question. And if I also may, Chair, that may also give us a period of time to continue the conversations with the local community.
That would be, yes, we're happy with that. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, thanks very much for letting me back in, Provost. If that's the case, then, Colin, and the report's coming back, can we get a paragraph inserted in there telling us very clear what the requirements of, or the limitations of who we can sell it to? For example, community councils, if and I've no reason to doubt the Provost, if what the Provost's submission and my thinking was that they're not allowed, then we need that to be down there in black and white so that everybody knows. So when we're talking to local communities, it needs to be very clear to them that the community council, if that's the case, can't actually own or buy the property. So we need to be honest with people, I suppose, is the best way, and no raise hopes.
Yes, that would be good. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Chair.
We'll
and thank you, Councillor.
Yes, we'll now wait for the report to come back to our next committee. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item. Our next report is looking for us to agree street naming Locherbriggs Dumfries, Bluebell Gardens as the preferred name for the new road at the former social club in Locherbriggs. And we have Kevin Morrison on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Kevin, do you have any comments to add to the report before we begin? Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon and thank you. Through you, Chair. I'd like to provide members with an update to section 4.6 of the report. Simply, whilst it is correct that Locherbridge Community Council is disestablished, the Road Service have become aware that after publication of the report, a like-minded body, namely Locherbridge Community Centre Association, has been listed in some council matters and is therefore considered the local representative body. Following engagement with Locherbridge Community Centre Association, they too have intimated no objection to the proposed street naming. All the records have been updated accordingly. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Do we have any questions? Councillor Slater.
Yes, I would just like to ask the question, why is it named Bluebell Gardens? Is there a specific reason for that or not? Because it just seems an unusual name for that particular area. Thank you.
I think it has a connection with one of the builders, but I will pass that on to Kevin for you to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Slater. It's outlined in section 4.4 of the report. So it's the applicant's grandmother. It was one of her favourite flowers, and it's representing humility and gratitude. That's where the name has originated from. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? If not, we'll move to the recommendations. Members are asked to agree Bluebell Gardens as the preferred name for the new road associated with the development as detailed within the appendix. Thank you. Now move to item 12. Our final report is looking for us to agree Maryholme Place as the preferred name for the new road associated with the development at College Mains, Dumfries. And we have Kevin Morrison on Teams to answer any member questions. Do we have any questions or comments? If there are no questions or comments, we will move to recommendations. Members are asked to agree Maryholme Place as the preferred name for the new road associated with the development as detailed within the appendix. Thank you. I have no further urgent business, so thank you all so much for your attendance and your comments and questions. Thank you.